So welcome back everyone. I've got a very special video for you today, the hand hatchet shootout. What I have for you are the two most popular hand hatchets. We've got the made in Sweden, Granfors Brooks $150 hatchet versus the made in Finland, Fiskars $25 hand hatchet. We're gonna find out today, is it really $125 better? So what is a hand hatchet and why would anyone want one? Hand hatchets are just cool. They're fun. They're very small. They're really great. They're something that you can throw in a backpack. You can throw in a rucksack that you can keep in a glove box of a car. And I find that of all the tools and all the hatchets that I have, it's one of my favorite. For some reason, when you just pick them up, they just make you smile. I don't know if it's just because we just have a penchant for things that are small and cute or what it is, but they are very fun. They're effective for doing small bushcrafting type of tasks. They're good for splitting small kindling, not very big. But one thing that they're maybe somewhat overlooked is that they're very useful for carving and woodworking because of the size of it and the ability to, well, a person's ability, the user, to choke up on the handle, and they're just cool. They're just cool. So a huge difference between these two and a lot of similarities as well. Starting at the handle. So the Granfors Brooks, if you don't know, of course, if you follow my channel, you know my favorite axes, and I'm going to be completely biased here, but I'm going to try to pretend that I'm not. But what we have is a wooden handle that is fitted the traditional way there with a wedge, a hardwood. Probably, I think that these are still made with hickory and great ergonomics. Very similarly, these two, you would almost think that, maybe someone did a little copying. I don't know. I don't know who was first. I don't know that either. Both of them are going to have the hole in the bottom, but very similar. They both feel good, especially this one choked up. Yeah, I have to say that the Fiskars feels good too, but much smaller. So this would maybe be better suited for a child or for a smaller person with smaller hands. But either one, I would say, completely serviceable. Now the handle on the Fiskars is a hollow injection molded handle, and these things are tough. You can go online and you can watch people driving over them with tractors and shooting them with cannons, and there is no question that they are exceedingly tough. I have not a ton of experience with them. I have two of them around here, but I know enough to know that they are exceedingly tough. Will they fail? Have they failed? Yes, of course. I think a lot of those failures you're going to see have been intentional. You know what I'm saying? Someone trying to prove a point. Downside with these handles, as I've always said, is that it's not replaceable. What you have, if you take this apart and do a little axe forensics, you'll see that this handle is injected around the steel. Can you replace this with a wooden handle? No, there's no eye, no hole. And also, what you're going to notice with an injected handle is it's going to be much skinnier, much thinner. You see how thin that is compared with the Granfors Brooks, because you need to account for the eye. You need to have a significant amount of wood to go through the eye. So those are the main handle differences. Can you replace a handle like this in the field? Of course, you could. You can do it with a pocket knife, you could do it with whatever. Can you replace this handle in the field? No. Will you probably ever need to? Probably not. But the big difference is price. You have $150 for something like that. And that is a lot of dough for someone that is not really into axes. I get it. If you like it, that makes you feel good, and you want something that's special you can hand down to your children. Yeah, absolutely. Something that you can treasure and enjoy that just gives you, the warm and fuzzies. I understand. I get that, and it's worth it to me to have that. But with that being said, at the Fiskars or the Gerber, this is a Fiskars. It's branded as a Gerber, but it's made in Finland. There's a Fiskars name on it. These can be had for around $25. You could have, 6 of these compared to one of these? So it's hard to say. Let's talk about steel quality. Well, I have sharpened and used these a lot. These have been members on the homestead for a long time. And what I have found is that the Swedish steel of the Granfors Brooks is a superior steel. Holds an edge better, sharpens to a finer edge, and is tough as nails. I have never rolled an edge, meaning hitting something where it cut the edge because the steel was soft, it had that to fail. What we have with the Fiskars is we have a good hardened steel, but it's not as hard, and it will have a tendency to roll. And so what I have found with these is that I need to back up and sharpen these at a little bit steeper angle, and that seems to mitigate the problem. I would say I would have to sharpen this 2 to 1, just daily use. Is that a big deal? No, it's not. If you do get a ding in it, if you're chipping something and you hit a nail, actually it's a lot easier to bring the Fiskars back than it is the Grand Force Brooks. And it doesn't break your heart because you're $25 into it. So let's do a little non-scientific hardness test. This is a very non-scientific hardness test. What's it going to tell us? Probably nothing, but it might tell us something. This is a spring-loaded center punch, super hardened steel. When I press it, it will put a divot in. You can see right in that wood, it really hits hard. Some people use these as glass breakers. So an axe typically is going to be harder here than it is here. It's going to be softer material here, harder, more brittle on the edge. That's the way that they were done back in the day. They actually forged, welded, and had 2 different types of steel in the older axes. That's not done so much anymore. If we take this and we strike it, do it again, we can see on that hardened edge, what do I have? I cannot feel it. You might be able to see a little bit of a scratch right there, but the human hand is very sensitive. You can feel the smallest minute details. You can't feel it with here. If we back it up here, and we try it here, we can see right there, we do indeed have a small divot. I can certainly feel it with my finger. So if we take the Fiskars axe, and that should also be hardened here on the edge, and we'll do the same little spring test here. We can see right there, a little bit visible, very hard. I can barely feel it, just barely. It's very soft. But if we come back up here, indeed, we do have softer. So what that tells us is that the Fiskars, as well as the Grand Force Brooks, is certainly hardened on the edge, as it should be, as well as in the field, in the middle there, on the cheeks. Now, one benefit that the Fiskars has over the Grand Force Brooks is you've got a pole here that can be used to hammer with. You can hammer on this. It makes it a little bit more versatile. You can pound fence stakes. You can pound nails or tent stakes. Not so much on one of these. These poles should be pretty hard if we check it. About the same as the cheek, not really any different. We'll try it here. Imagine we're going to run into the same thing. Yep, exactly. They're about the same right there. The problem with hammering on a good axe like this is that it will chip, it will break, and if you hit it hard enough, you'll actually deform the eye. You'll spread the eye out, which will ruin the axe. With the Fiskars, not so much, more versatile. You could hammer nails with this, you can punch it in, there is no eye to split. If you got carried away, you could break out the plastic, but I've yet to see that. So that's just a few of the differences right there. One thing you're going to get with the Grand Force Brooks that you're not with the Fiskars is you're going to get a nice sheath. Now don't overlook that. Yes, you get a nice sheath, it comes at a great price, but it is a good sheath. A sheath is really important. If you've been around a lot of people that go camping, and many people that have axes or hatchets, they'll throw them in the toolbox. They don't really have a tool, or it's very rare to see a tool that's actually really sharp. The way these are meant to be kept and the way that we'll be keeping them are razor sharp. I mean hair splitting sharp. I mean I just touch my finger and split it open type of sharp. So a sheath is an essential item. You can make your own. You can even buy some third-party or aftermarket sheaths for these on Amazon online, but just know that going into it. Now let's get to the part of the video that everyone's been waiting for. Let's do the torture test. And before we do the torture test, I want to just confirm to you guys that indeed these two hatchets, hand hatchets, are both equally sharp. I was shaving hair this morning, but I touched them both up. But if we see right here, as you can see, indeed, we are shaving with the Grand Force. And although it took a little bit of effort, I did get the Fiskars also shaving sharp. You can see, there's my, it's kind of gross when people do that, but that's where we're starting. That is our baseline. Before we perform the acid test, let's quickly verify, because then we're going to check and we're going to see a little bit about edge retention here to verify that these both are hair shaving sharp. We saw that, as well as paper splitting sharp. That's what we're starting at. I did the best I could to get both of these as sharp as I could. I've got a piece of railroad tie right here. I've got a piece of brass, and I've got a piece of aluminum. Now these are non-ferrous materials. These are metals that are softer than the hardened steel we have on the axes. So Likelihood of them getting damaged, not super likely. They could cut through, we'll find out, but we know how to sharpen an axe around here. So what I'm gonna do is we'll start with the aluminum. It doesn't fit on there very good, does it? I'll straighten that out. We'll start with the aluminum, and I'm gonna do a controlled drop, meaning I'm going to raise this up at, say, neck level, and let it fall. I'm simply going to guide it. And we're going to do 3 strokes. We're going to let it fall 3 times on the aluminum, each one, and then we're going to take a close look at the edges. Again, certainly not scientific, but we're having fun, aren't we? All right. So I'm going to try to hold this up here. I'll try to just bring it up on a camera. Same one. I'm just going to let it fall and guide it, and we'll do it 3 times right in the center. 1, 2, 3. All right. Same with the Grand Force Brooks. 1. It's heavier. All right. Let's take a look and see what happened. Starting with the Fiskars, we can see that's a pretty good drop. Do we see any visible damage to it? Looking at that close, that looks pretty good. That's a fine edge on there. It feels very sharp. I don't notice anything with that. That's good. All right, how about this one here? Still very sharp. I don't feel any burrs or damage on that. I'd say that's about the same. Let's try the brass. With the brass on the tie, we'll start with the Grand Force Brooks this time. I'll hold it up here. And 1, 2, 3. And the Fiskars. Fiskars is lighter. 1, 2, 3. Let's take a look. You can see the brass there. You cut a little bit deeper right there, a little more deformed with the Grand Force Works, and it's just because it's heavier. But feel these edges here. Let's see. Do we have any? Let's bring some light in here. Any damage there? Can't feel anything. Feels good. How about the Fiskars? Do we have any? That's holding up nicely too. I have to say, I'm very impressed. I'm trying to be biased, but it won't let me. I might have to amend my evil ways on all of my Fiskar bashing in the past there. Okay, both hand hatchets have had 6 drops. And maybe, did you see maybe a little more resistance there? No, not really. It's just as sharp as it was before. And the Grand Force, yeah, I would say that's a push. Those are even. Now, because I love you guys, we're going to go metal to metal. 1 drop. And that will tell us what we got. Oh, this pains me. You have no idea how this pains me to do. It just goes against, it goes against the grain. But everything in the name of science here. All right, we'll hold it up, out of frame. 1 drop onto steel to steel. Oh, I don't like that. 1 drop. Oh, goodness. Let's start with the Fiskars here. All right, so you can see we came in contact. That did not do us any good at all. Do you see the damage? Okay, so we came in contact right here, and actually there's an entire depression. We have chipping. Do you see all of that? I don't know if we're going to be able to see. Yeah, I think you can see it right there. From here to here, it's going to take a little bit of work. Not bad. It won't take but a few minutes to get that out of there, but we could definitely see that it didn't roll and it did chip. You know, and that's been my complaint for Fiskars in the past, that it was so soft that it didn't chip, that it did roll. Now I did sharpen this at a little bit steeper angle to compensate for that, but what we see right there is we got a hard steel. You know, a steel that's going to hold an edge good, and it has not failed. It has actually performed very admirably. Well, this one hurts the most. Here we have the Grand Force Brooks. Well, we have the same thing. This is where we came in contact with. We have 1 small chip right there in the edge. And these were ground to a pretty fine angle, and here you can see it even more pronounced. It definitely took some damage. Did it survive? Did it do better than the Fiskars? No, it did not. It actually did worse. You can see that the damage there is greater on the Grand Force Brooks than it is in the Fiskars. Now let's also keep in mind that this is heavier. So we had, you know, we had more physics going on there, right there. How's that? So what's the takeaway from all this science and physics we just performed? Well, in using the two, there are some significant differences. Splitting. If we look right there, we can see this is a wider, comes out wider, it goes narrow to wide right there. And that does two things. I've noticed is that the axe will bite at a steeper angle, meaning that if you want to chop an angle into something, you can rotate this axe up more. It does bite more because it is thinner, and it splits small wood better just because it's fatter. The reason is just the wedge principle. Where this one here does not bite quite as well, but it's a really wonderful tool to use. I've complained in the past about vibration. The wood is a natural, it's really good at absorbing that, which makes it more comfortable for the joints and the bones. I've had some complaints that the plastic, I thought in some of the larger malls, transferred vibration to my body. With this, did I notice it? No, I didn't. But those are pretty minor things. The truth of the matter is that this is a fine little hatchet. The hardness of the steel, the ergonomics, the design, the build, the weight of it, the economy of it, it's a wonderful little hatchet. So is this. It's a totally different thing. This is an heirloom quality tool. This is something that, in the words of James May, gives you the fizz. It gives you the fizz when you have it. It's something that makes you smile when you pick it up. It's something that you just think about, I enjoy that. I really like that. Are you going to show this to a friend when they come over to your wood shop? No, but it's entirely serviceable. It's entirely usable. It's durable, and it's cheap. So which one would I prefer? If you're made of money, get this one. For the common man, I would have to say, if you want a small hand hatchet to keep in the car, to do small camping tasks with, I'd say you can't do much better than that. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.